Okay, so we're going to talk about insulin resistance. So if you're struggling with the following things, if you're struggling with, let's say you're struggling with stress and anxiety, everybody's had stress and anxiety over the last year. Maybe you're struggling with prediabetes. Maybe you're struggling with type 2 diabetes, thyroid dysfunction, autoimmune disease, depression, high blood pressure, belly fat, excuse me, overweight, high cholesterol, fatty liver, PCOS, infertility, early onsets of dementia or pre-Alzheimer's disease, neuropathy, adrenal issues, inflammation, hormone imbalances, and sugar addiction. Sugar addiction is huge. You know, sugar is the #1 abused drug on the planet. It's sugar, right? Okay. So if you have any of these or you're struggling with any of these, what's the underlying cause? They all have something in common. And that something in common is the true underlying cause for any of these can be related to or connected to or traced back to insulin resistance. Insulin resistance from a functional medicine standpoint is the underlying cause to almost everything on here in one way or another. So let's talk about what exactly is insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is when your body cells develop resistance to the hormone insulin, meaning the membrane around the cell doesn't allow insulin to lock into its location or its receptor site and deliver its package of glucose. So that's really what insulin resistance is. So it's a driving force behind insulin resistance includes the following and many more: poor diet habits, excessive body weight, too much belly fat, lack of exercise, hormone imbalances, leaky gut syndrome, stress, bad habits like smoking, drinking, excessive alcohol, pretty much everything that we've done in the last year under the COVID lockdown. So insulin resistance really develops. Your body fights back against producing more insulin. So the more insulin your pancreas dumps, the more resistance we build up, the worse things get. It's a vicious cycle. So this is what it looks like. This is a really great diagram. I like to use this with clients. Repeated insulin spikes cause insulin resistance. So here, when we eat food, it converts into glucose. And when that happens, our pancreas will dump insulin. So here's the cell, and here's the food we just ate. Here it is. Glucose is up in our bloodstream. Insulin's job is to take that glucose to the cell for energy. That's normal physiology. That's when your body is functioning normally. But when we have these huge spikes of insulin because of poor dietary habits, lack of exercise, everything I just described, we have these huge spikes of sugar and huge spikes of insulin. The cell membrane will now become resistant to the insulin, and we develop what we call insulin resistance. Now, the insulin cannot deliver its package, so my blood sugar goes up. We know that elevations in blood sugar are related to almost everything on that first graph that we showed you. High insulin has a negative impact on every single cell in our body and all of our different systems in our overall health. High insulin is bad. When we have high insulin, it suppresses our immune system. It suppresses our metabolism. It drives inflammation through the roof. So high insulin is bad. High insulin is the root cause of many of the chronic diseases that we see out there today. There's a lot of research on this, and we believe that it's a key to the success of our programs is to reducing and eliminate insulin resistance. What do we want? We want a metabolic advantage. But when we have high insulin, we're at a disadvantage. So we call that a metabolic disadvantage. What do we do in our programs? What's really straightforward is we want to eliminate the insulin resistance at the cellular level and put your body in a metabolic advantage so that we can be optimally healthy. Eliminate and reduce and eliminate all the risk factors out there and reduce the chances of developing any of the chronic diseases that are out there. So what we want to do is we want to eliminate that insulin resistance. There it goes. And then allow the insulin to deliver its glucose as energy like it should in normal physiology. So again, eliminating insulin resistance puts us in a metabolic advantage. It gives us an advantage and an opportunity to optimize our health and wellness. So low insulin has a positive impact on every cell of our body and all the different systems and our overall health. It is the true key to optimum health and wellness. Low insulin provides us with what's called a metabolic advantage. Macronutrients, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Let's talk briefly about that. Human needs large amounts of macronutrients in order to survive. However, there are only two essential macronutrients. Most people don't know this. First and foremost, we have essential fatty acids, or fats that are essential for our survival. Then we also have essential amino acids, which are proteins broken down into small pieces. They're essential. We have to have these two, absolutely essential to survive. And the last nutrient here is carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are not essential. You can survive without them. The amount of energy provided by the macronutrients varies. Fat is 9 kilocalories of energy per gram, more than twice the number of kilocalories of energy of proteins and carbs, which is 4 grams of kilocalories. So the best thing for us to be eating is proteins and fats and keeping our carbs low. When we eat carbs, they convert to glucose. That's sugar. When sugar goes up, insulin goes up. That puts us in a metabolic disadvantage. It drives inflammation through the roof, suppresses our immune system, suppresses our metabolism, tells our body to store fat. Which macronutrients are essential? Proteins, they're the building blocks of the human body. Fats, they're essential. We have to have them. We have to have good fats to make our brain work. So 25% of all of the cholesterol or the fat in our body, cholesterol, is in your brain, and your brain only makes up 2% of the body weight. So it's pretty important. And lastly, the non-essential macronutrient is carbohydrates. There is no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. Let me repeat that for anybody that's not hearing it. There is no such thing as an essential carbohydrate, period. It's not necessary. You can survive without them. Glycemic index is really what tells you how drastically that food is going to elevate your blood sugar, and the load is how long it's going to last. If we look at the blood sugar levels, carbohydrates, 100% of the carbs enter the bloodstream as sugar. After eating it, 15 grams of carbohydrates will literally raise your blood sugar 50 to 60 in 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. Proteins and fats have no effect whatsoever on your sugar levels. Now, let me rephrase that. There are certain circumstances, if we're in a severe insulin resistance scenario, whereby you may see proteins increase your sugar levels a little bit. But the standard rule is fats and proteins are not going to increase your sugar levels. Therefore, when you hear people say, oh, if you eat red meat, you're going to develop diabetes, that's not true. Absolutely not true. This is just a graph of some of the things that we see: corn, rice, wheat, flour, how bad they are. Look at how they raise our blood sugar levels super high, way high on the glycemic index. We want to stay away from all of that. Glucose, sucrose, fructose, and honey, they're in the middle of the road. They're moderate. And then potatoes, beans, and brown rice are at the bottom. I would suggest we stay away from all of these, period. They're going to raise your blood sugar. They're going to raise your insulin levels. They're going to decrease your metabolism. They're going to decrease your immune system. They're going to tell your body to store fat. And I don't care how much exercise you do, when you're in a severe insulin resistant state, you will not be able to lose weight and get healthy with this state. Low insulin has a positive impact on every cell. We talked about this earlier. So if you want to reach optimum health and wellness, you've got to keep your insulin levels low as much as possible, constantly low, okay? Continuously low levels. That's called the metabolic advantage. This is just, I threw these in here just for fun. This happens to be a client of ours. They came in, you can see here, they came in January of 2020, and in June of 2020, we got their lab results back. So this individual's glucose, fasting glucose. Remember, this is a fasting glucose. It was 322. Their hemoglobin A1C was 13.8. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. All right. So what happened after 5 months of work? Well, let's take a look. Let's see what their numbers were. There was a 63% drop in their fasting glucose down to 122. I know a lot of diabetics that would love that. and their A1C dropped down 56% to 6.2. So this is what happens when we work diligently at reducing and eliminating the insulin resistance. That this person from this point forward continued to improve and became a non-diabetic. Let's take a look at what happened to their cholesterol levels. When they came to see us, their triglycerides were 706. That's huge. Their cholesterol was 270, and their LDLs, that stands for lousy cholesterol, their LDLs were so high they couldn't even calculate them. Okay? What happened 5 months later? Their LDLs dropped to 92, which was normal. Look at the other numbers. Their triglycerides went from 700 to 219. What happened to the other numbers? 69% improvement. We had 270 cholesterol dropped to 175. Huge improvements. Why? When we break down that insulin resistance and let your body's very own insulin do its job, lower the blood sugar like it should, none of the triglycerides are developed, because when there's excess sugar goes to the liver, gets converted into triglycerides. That's how you get the 706. They told this person they had fatty liver, they had to take these drugs, there was nothing they could do about it, and look what we did for them. Again, they continue to improve on the program that we customized for them to help them recover optimum health and wellness. These are just classic examples of what happens to us every single day in the office. Oh, that was a 36% improvement of their overall cholesterol. Absolutely incredible. So how to achieve a metabolic advantage? We want to keep our protein levels up, 30 grams minimum, cut back the carbs, 30 to 40, 30 to 50 grams. I would split that in the middle and say 40 grams, no more carbs. Because remember, carbs include not just grains and pastas and breads and muffins. Carbs also include vegetables. So if we're going to really cut back, we're getting rid of all the bad stuff. And then we're going to keep our vegetables intake to a minimum so that we stay within that 30 to 50 grams. We want to consume 40 to 80 grams of good fats on a daily basis, and make sure you exercise. This isn't just a quick fix. You've got to be physically active. Exercise plays an incredible role. We talked about that last week. An incredible role in keeping our body functioning normally, keeping us metabolically sound. And as we exercise, we lower our blood sugar because we pull all the sugar, in most cases, out of the muscles in the liver. They're stored, and it's incredible. So you got to exercise. I, for one, I raise my hand. I'm an exercise addict. I love it. I can do it every day, twice a day if I could. Exercise, exercise, exercise. And last, drink lots of water. You want to stay fully hydrated. So we're going to go through this. I'm going to skip through this because we're going to have this next week. That was the end of the talk. Next week, we're going to go through, how do I get rid of this now, insulin resistance? Now that you've learned insulin resistance is the root cause of almost all the problems, right? Next week, we're going to show you how we go about eliminating insulin resistance. What do we do? What's the process and the step-by-step process we should take you through to eliminate insulin resistance? So again, if you want to achieve optimum health, you've got to get to the underlying root cause of why you're dysfunctional first. I had a client in here today, and she talked about how, oh, I exercise all the time. I've tried diets and exercise, blah, 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 nothing worked. Well, I said to her, so let me ask you a question. If your body is metabolically dysfunctional and you eat a specific diet and exercise, but you're dysfunctional, that's not going to help. It's like putting the best gasoline you can in your car, but it only runs on 4 cylinders instead of 8. You see? So we've got to fix the underlying cause first, which is insulin resistance. And then once we've done that, then the diet and the exercise and all of the things that we teach will have a maximum benefit with regards to achieving optimum health and wellness. Okay? So I hope this was great information. I hope everybody understands a little bit more about how insulin resistance can lead to everything on the screen here in some form or another. The research is out there. I've already looked at it. So if you want to dig it up, you can. It took me a long time, but you're by all means look for it. So next week, again, we're going to talk about how to free yourself from the curse of insulin resistance. And it is a curse. Believe me, it is a curse. Okay. So I'm going to turn it over to Lori.
I'm kind of in the shadows over here. I'm going to try to stop sharing this. That was great information about insulin resistance. And I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you everyone too for your patience with us as we tried for the first time to do a Zoom PowerPoint. We learned a lot and I hope you guys learned a lot. I mean, the slide that we showed at the end and we talked about with the insulin resistance in the middle and all the things that it affects, I always find that so fascinating. And it's enlightening. And I think it also can give people a lot of hope of knowing that if you're suffering from any of those symptoms, that perhaps it's the insulin resistance that's actually causing that.
Right. The
And
root
so-
cause. We got to fix that first.
Yeah. And a lot of doctors aren't talking about that. They're waiting until your A1C is like at 6.5, then they put you on medication, but no one is addressing that. So I always find this information so interesting and enlightening. And again, thank you everyone who watched today and who's watching while it's recording right now. And please join us. We're on here every Tuesday at 4:30. Like Dr. Rappy said, next week we're going to be talking about how to achieve the metabolic advantage. And then we've got some really great stuff going on in May. We're even going to be doing a live giveaway. Hopefully
we're going to have it down by then for
yes,
sure.
we will. So I'm just looking here to see if there was any questions. I didn't see any questions. So I hope everyone has an amazing evening and we hope to see you next week. Bye.